Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Danvat pranams.
My pranam to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for being here, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Good to see you. Good to hear your sessions, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. It's just because of you and the regular members who make me motivated, and we try different things. And these are one of those sessions which I always look forward, even though sometimes time limits ourselves. But good to be here. Good to be here. Hare Krishna. Right. So welcome one and all for today's session of Shri Īśopaniṣad, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's do Mangalacharan and then we shall resume. Feel free to join me. Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Agrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Harijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Anchakalpatarubhyascha
Sindhubhya
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo Namah
Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Veshtaya
Krishaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatdesh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara Shiva
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Maharaj ki jai, Jai Shri Radhesha, Jai Shri Radhesha. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. And it's so great to have everyone's involvement. And this is what we call Mangalacharan. And it's so auspicious, and I do feel auspiciousness. So we are 4 family members. We do have mother-in-law as well in the house who is currently doing Mala. But all 4 members in the family, as soon as we do Mangalacharan, wherever they are, they come all together. And I feel so blessed that the Mangalacharan is one of those things which bring the whole family together. And of course, you as the part of the extended family, when you join in, that looks even more blissful. Thank you so much. And Shri Īśopaniṣad directly about Ishvara, about Krishna. And we did invocation mantra. Everything is perfect. And when we say everything, Krishna is perfect. We, living entity, Jivatma, we emanated from Krishna and we are perfect as well. And it's such a beautiful thing to think that materially we always think we need more and more. But spiritually, we don't really need more. We just need to realize what we already are. And on this principle, both Advaita and Dvaita, which are the main 2 major school of thoughts in Vedanta, Advaita and Dvaita, they all, this is one of those things, these 2 very opposite, very different school of thoughts, but on this one single concept, they both align that Krishna is perfect and we come out of Krishna and we are also perfect. And we don't really need to acquire anything. We don't really need to gain anything. We just need to realize what we already are. And the whole purpose is this. Whole purpose of all the spiritual rites and rituals, the practices, the sadhana, is just this, that we need to be self-realized. And it's very important to have self-realized, like what Buddha said, that I can do everything, but all those practices will only help me. When you come in my shadow, you can get inspired, but you have to do your own sadhana. And when we come together on these sessions, Saturday morning, 9:30 to 10:30, the whole purpose is just to inspire each other. But we have to do our own sadhana. We have to. We will get more conviction that when we see each other, is that we are so happy in the practices. It doesn't really matter what the circumstances are, because we realize these are temporary. And we will discuss that in Mantra 11, because Srila Prabhupada has described that in much detail. So invocation mantra, everything is perfect, and then everything belongs to Ishvara, or we say Īśavasyam principle. Then how living in harmony with it benefits? So we should live in Īśavasyam principle, everybody, and not only everybody, every living being, plants, insects, everyone is looking for happiness, or we say bliss. But of course, we might not really have tasted that bliss yet, but at least we know the comfort, what we consider as happiness. These clothes are more comfortable, these big houses are more comfortable, the cars are comfortable, the jobs are comfortable, some countries, some cities are comfortable, well, partners are comfortable. So we always go for the comfort, and we consider those comforts as happiness. But what we say, that if we live in Īśavasyam principles, that irrespective of all this, irrespective of the house, the job, the partner, the circumstances, we could be not only happy, but blissful. And that's such a great and powerful thing which we can get from Shri Īśopaniṣad. Then if you don't live with it, then it doesn't really matter, even if we have all the boxes ticked. Despite all of them, we will be in disharmony, because we have missed the very fundamental concept of Īśavasya. Then if you want to understand Ishvara, then we have to have the spiritual vision, which means we have to come in touch with Guru, Sadhu, and Sangha. And then right and wrong Vidya, the knowledge for understanding. If we have that, we know the right way of doing Upasana, worshipping Ishwar, getting connected to Ishwar. And once we will able to do it, then we will pray to Ishwar to reveal himself, which means that we will self-realize that yes, we are convicted. The conviction is so strong, doesn't really matter wherever we go, our children go, our relatives go, our friends would go. Nobody could. It's one of those things. Somebody said that if you will walk in a room and somebody will say, pointing to red color, that this is a green color. You say, no, it's not, it's a red color. Now, it doesn't really matter who says that. It could be the prime minister, the president, it could be the famous actor, actress, famous sports person. It doesn't really matter who says that red color is green, because we know it. We are so much a strong conviction in that fact. And this is what we call the self-realized. We know that this is, however, of course, we can say that, okay, maybe in your country you call it green, but this is basically red from where I come from. Right? And these things happen when you move from country to country, you move continents to continents. For example, in England, we don't have so many houses with the balcony. But if we have balcony in the houses, then when we go to Spain, they call balcony as terrace. However, terrace in India or in UK, usually we have the roof, which we don't have here in UK most of the time. But if you are in India, we have the roofs, and they are usually called terraces. But in Spain, the balcony are called terraces. So that could be just the local perspective. But obviously, the spirituality is one of those things which is universal, like what we call religion as the dharma, or what Buddha said, dhamma, that the intrinsic quality of it, like the fire is going to be hot, doesn't really matter what we call it. Of course, the hot, the heat, the fire might have different names in different languages, but fire is fire. Right? And once we realize it, we can understand there are different form and shapes, but the intrinsic quality is the same. So, Mantra 9, 10, and 11, we have seen avidya and vidya, the differences, the benefits, and there are some kind of vidya, which is like sense gratification, which it's okay if we are without it. We will be happy. And in Mantra 11 actually says that vidya and avidya will go together, which means that you can't have vidya about everything. There will always be something about which you will be avigya. You will have avidya about it, which means you will be ignorant about it. And devotees would love to be ignorant about those things which are full of sense gratification. Right? So we have seen this, and if we quickly move to right, we have seen this very quickly. So currently we are doing the explanations given by Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. So all glories to Prabhuji's hard work. What Prabhuji has done purport-wise, he has dissected and discussed in detail the purports given by Srila Prabhupada. And this purport of Mantra 11 is the biggest and longest one in Shri Īśopaniṣad given by Srila Prabhupada. There are 14 paragraphs, and the first few paragraphs talk about immortality. However, if you notice immortality, mortality, and then balance is material and sense gratification, and then we will see immortality. So mostly this is what had been discussed. And what we have seen in the past, and that's the reason I'm going very quick, that we have seen the examples of some of those great personality in a sense that they have done the endeavor which is very hard for anyone else to do. So this is Raman, who asked for the boon to be immortal. Right? But we know he couldn't be immortal because nobody could be. And then at the end, when he couldn't, he thought he tricked Brahmaji by saying that, okay, why don't you restrict nectar in my navel? And if only somebody will shoot there, then only I will die. And of course, he died later. But what we have seen is we discussed inclusion and diversity, that even then his brother Vibhishan was from demonic ancestry, because his background was from demonic family, but his consciousness was of a devotee, and Lord Rama accepted him with full-hearted. Same thing or similar thing we have seen in the example of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu had the same, he thought he's tricking Lord Brahma by putting so many different conditions, but of course, initially, both of them asked for immortality, but I said you couldn't. And Lord Narasimha came, fulfill all those conditions, but still killed Hiranyakashipu, or what we say, delivered him. But Prahlad Maharaj Ji, again from demonic ancestry, his father was a demon, but he was a pure devotee of Lord Narasimha. And what we understand here is that despite the fact that this material world will always display that, oh right, if you do this, if you get this dream job, dream home, then you're going to be happily ever after. But what are scriptural references? And if we think about it, our own personal experiences, they say that that's not possible. Why it's not possible? Because material world, mamupette punarjanma dukkha alyam ashashvatam. So dukh alyam. Alyam is residence, dukkha is full of misery. So this place, material world, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 15, Lord Krishna has very clearly mentioned to Arjuna that this is a dukhalyam, right? This is a dukhalyam, and we have seen it recently when COVID happened, and still it's going on. Nothing. I mean, people said, like there was a philosopher who said that something which is not even visible, that has put the whole world, developed and in undeveloped countries, all onto the knees. And they say that this is the power of nature. This is the power of nature, even though we say COVID wasn't. But any of those things, of course, the tsunami comes, earthquake comes. Currently in India, North India, the flood has been, it's so much out of control. These things will be there. And our scriptures has mentioned that 5,000, well, more than 5,000 years ago, that Adi Devi, Adi Bhaudik, Adhyatmik. So from our mind and body, from the people around us, and from the natural disasters, we will always be in trouble. We will always have the miseries. This is what have been said in the scriptures. This is what we have experienced. So what we should understand there, we should understand that this is a temporary place, and we should make the best use of the bad bargain. And this is what Srila Prabhupada said a number of times, Shashvatam, that this is not eternal. So even though it says happily ever after, but our Shastras and our experience tell us that this is never going to be happy after. It could be temporary, very temporary. Dukhalyam ashashvatam, because it's full of misery, and it's very temporary. So if we remember these two things, we understand the time we have in this material world, what we should do. What should we do? So very first thing, immortality is impossible materially. We have seen it. Immortality possible only by following Krishna's teachings. And this is what Srila Prabhupada Ji has given to us, that if we will engage ourselves, so not only that Srila Prabhupada Ji explained, or this verse explained, or the verse 8:15 we have seen, Dukhalyam Ashashvatam, it's not this that the problem has been, or it's not a problem, it's the nature. We can't really say the problem of fire is that fire burns. It's just the nature of fire. We cannot blame fire. And this is what happened in the example when in Bhagavatam we see after what we say Kaliya Dahan, when Lord Krishna danced on the head of Kaliya Naga, then Kaliya said that what shall I do? What shall I do, Prabhu? And this has happened few times. That he said, well, you have made me a snake. I can't do anything. I have poison. I can only do this. I can only use this. And there are beautiful prayers by the wives of Kaliya. And they also said the same thing, that Prabhu, I know he's doing wrong, but this is what he knows. This is what he knows. So, and of course, because he was cursed by Garuna. And then Lord Krishna said, now my little foot on the head of Kaliya, footprints are there. And when Garuna will see this, He will not trouble Kalia anymore. So if we understand that, then we can see that even though everything else is temporary, but in Krishna consciousness, we can think or say or refer as immortality, which means this is what Krishna has said it as well in Bhagavad Gita, that in a spiritual path, even a single path, single step goes very, very, very far. So if you think about that, then immortality is only possible by Krishna's teaching. And Srila Prabhupada has taught us so well how to engage ourselves in Krishna conscious activities. Remember, Prabhupada always explained and translated bhakti in English as devotional service, not just devotion, but devotional service. Because we have to engage ourselves. Again, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, we have to engage ourselves. And there is an anecdote, a pastime of Srila Prabhupada when, because obviously Prabhupada traveled all the way to America in West, and his ideas were very radical, very new to the people there. So Prabhupada said, this is Krishna, this is, he's the Lord of the universe, bow down at the front of him. And somebody said, I don't want to bow down at the front of anyone. And then Srila Prabhupada said, well, you will have to bow down at the front of someone. If you won't consciously, intentionally, voluntarily bow down at the front of Krishna, then you will bow down at the front of Krishna's energies, right? And don't we? And then Prabhupada said, do you bow down to material nature? Do you die? Do you get old? Do you get sick? These are the first noble truth, which is that suffering of the birth, old age, sickness, and death, they are unavoidable. Now, when we say bow down, which means we surrender. When we say surrender, which means we raise our hands and we say, I can't do anything without you, or I'm helpless. And in all those, well, who would like to get old? Who would like to suffer during sickness, during old, during death? Who would like to die? No one. But we all do. This is what Prabhupada said, that this body is material, this is material nature. And you bow down to all of them, don't you? And it hit the person so hard, he was stunned. And he thought about it later on. Of course, he became disciple of Prabhupada, and he narrated his own story. And he said, I just could not think of, I never thought that way. I couldn't think that something I knew. Of course, these things are not surprise to anyone. These things happen to everyone, but we don't think it that way. We don't think that we are surrendering to these things. We are helpless at the front of these things. We do. So why not we bow down to Krishna, who is the source of everyone? And not that these things will not happen, but we will humbly accept those things, that yes, these things will happen. Of course, how they will happen depends on our own karma. But Krishna has given us the opportunity to transcend them. So not overcome them, but transcend them. Overcome in a sense that it's not that devotees will not get old, devotees will not get sick, devotees will not die, but it's just that devotees will not get disturbed by these things. Devotees will not say, why it happened to me? Why me? Or I have been doing so much puja, how come this happened to me? No. And well, that reminds me, I might still have it. Yesterday I was listening to a beautiful pastime. Right, here it is. I will share it on Hare Krishna TV. It's I will share it here, and I will share on YouTube as well. If in case you get time, please look for it. Such a such a powerful example of devotion. Then this Prabhuji, so I've just shared a YouTube clip. I've shared in the YouTube channel, if in case you want to find, because of course this Zoom link will finish. If you can't trace that YouTube link now, you can trace that on the YouTube link. And it's an example of a devotee named His Grace Raj Parikshit Prabhuji, and he shares that how many, I mean, I can't even think of how he survived, but how many miseries he underwent. And currently he's blind, completely blind, and he wasn't born blind. His health just he just got, and he explains so well that it's just my karmic reactions. I can't blame anyone else. But his devotion just went strong and strong. When people get old, sick, they go away from these things. Well, the spirituality, that's usually the very first thing they drop. And during COVID, I have heard so many people actually contacted me saying that you do Bhagavad Gita, you do these courses, so explain why this happened to me. And I just asked the simple question: why not you? Was Krishna consciousness or chanting Krishna's name kind of insurance that you will not, or your loved ones will not die? That's not the case at all. It's all because of our own karma. And at the same time, there are devotees like him, the Prabhuji, so many. And we will see not only him, his wife as well, Mataji, how much dedicated they are, and so many different lectures they give, and so many studies he has done. And he says all that motivation comes from Krishna consciousness. And he has shared whole his yatra throughout his life, all the ups and downs he went, and how the spirituality uplifted him. On one particular point, which we were just discussing, that somebody said that, so didn't you lose faith when this bad thing happened, that bad thing happened? I can understand one thing, but after another, so many things. And he said, doesn't really matter how many bad things. If I started counting the blessings, they were always more than all those bad things. So maybe one bad thing happened or two bad things happened, but when I counted my blessings, how much Krishna has given me, they were always more than the things which are not there with me. And for that reason, the balance was always positive. And I thought, wow. And this is what the realization is, that if we could develop, and this is self-realization, isn't it? For Prabhuji, that doesn't really matter. Of course, he got the benefit of sadhu, shastra, and sangha, and he has given the references of verses. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 7:24 is one of those. He's given those references that how the Bhagavad Gita shlokas and the explanation given by his Siksha Guru changed his life completely. And when I say changed the life, it's not the circumstances which changed, his outlook got changed. And think of it, it's so beautiful. We go through so much endeavor, we go through so much hard work, we will work for the whole month, the whole year, and we will get some money, and we will get some experience. But if you lose the job, the money dries up, the experience goes down or discontinue. But if we have that outlook, if we change negative to positive perspective towards life, which we get from Krishna consciousness, then that stays with us. Doesn't really matter what's there with us or what's not. But if we have that outlook, then that stays with us. But of course, if you remember, and this is a very nice book, and I got this one here in the bookshelf. And this is a very small book. This is what we call, there are small, medium, and large, big books by Srila Prabhupada. So this comes in a category of a small book, Beyond Birth and Death. And if you get the chance, of course, there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita based on which this picture has been painted. It's called Nahanyate Hanyamane Sharire. So the body will disappear, but the soul just moves from one body to another. That's it. So we will never die, but the body will. Body doesn't really matter how much we try to save, it will always die. Soul doesn't really matter who tries, it will never. And this is what Krishna explained in Bhagavad Gita. So, right, okay. Next thing, what Srila Prabhupada said, why material immortality is impossible. Of course, we have already seen some examples, but basic things, the 6 changes in matter are unstoppable, and they are the ones we discussed. That what Prabhupada mentioned here, insoluble matter. So ensouled, this word is so great. Instead, ensouled matter, like the matter which is around the soul. This is a kind of adjective. That this matter which is around the soul, and we are that soul, or Hindi or Sanskrit we call Atma. We are that Atma. It grows. So these are 6 changes which are unstoppable. They are not in our control, and we kind of bow down to the material nature. And these are material things: grows, reproduces, preserves, and if you think about ordinary matter, does not, and we will see the next one where Srila Prabhupada explains that how the body is a bad bargain. Now we have heard of this, make the good use of the bad bargain, the best use of the bad bargain, but why it's considered bad bargain? Of course, we have seen that there are 6 changes, and some of them are mentioned, but basically these 4 things being said. Duration is there, we are limited. Intensity is there. Intensity in a sense, well, there could be many different examples, but one of them is when we are young, we can learn so quick. When we grow old, our senses go old. You know, all the learning we can do now, we cannot do later. So yesterday I contacted Mayapur Institute and I said, Prabhuji, I have completed my Bhakti Vaibhav module 2. I want to do the next one, which is Bhakti Vedanta. And there are 4 modules. I said, the 4th module is available to start in November, but you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I said, I want to do the first one, Bhakti Vedanta, when it's available. And I said, oh, it will come next year. You can wait a bit. I said, okay. But then he said, I know it's a bit impatient to wait. I said, that's right. Because if I can sooner, I start, better it is. Because you never know what the circumstances will be next year. Yeah? You never know, Sadhu, Sangha, and Guru Kripa will be there next year or not. Hopefully, yes. But the sooner you do, the more you can put yourself through spiritual studies, better it is. That's where the intensity comes in. We devotees usually do not procrastinate good things. And this is one of the teaching from Ravana. Ravana said when Lord Rama asked Lakshman to go and seek right at the end, that Raman was a great Brahmin. So ask for the teachings. And the teaching itself was that anything good, never procrastinate. He said that I thought of it, that I will return to Sita to Lord Rama, but I always procrastinated. That, oh, maybe this way I will win over. And then any bad thing, you just need to procrastinate. So, and again, for us, not the bad thing as such, but any sense gratification, if we can procrastinate, and it helps. It really helps. Rather than doing it now, somebody asks something, oh, why not we do it tomorrow? Why not we do it next week? And most of the time it disappears. And this is where the intensity comes in. Varieties, of course, there we say, enjoyment is a mother of variety. So this body is a bad bargain. Doesn't really matter how good it is. So anything new when we get so excited. Hare Krishna. Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, it's a little bit of a different question, if I may ask, please.
Please, yes.
This has been on my mind for quite some time. We know it's about the soul and the super soul. We know the super soul is 4-headed, like a Vishnu form, yes, in our own self, in the region of the heart. But what does a soul look like? Soul is a living creature. So, and soul does all the activities, and we think that we are doing all the activities. I somehow find it little bit hard to understand. So I've got two questions. How does the soul look like? And how does the soul and our activities, which we do under the modes of the material nature and our karma, how does it interact?
Right. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So two separate questions, but both related to the soul. So of course we have, so the understanding is that we have, so every individual have a super soul and a soul. Super soul is the same. Super soul is like a sun, which is shining on all of us, but we all have individual soul. The shape, so super soul, because the super soul is the same. So the super soul being the Shirodakshaya Vishnu, one of the expansion, being very nicely mentioned. But for the soul, there isn't any description. The only, regarding the size in one of the Upanishad, Shvetra Upanishad, only the mention is that is the size of the thumb, but the description is not there. And somebody else asked the similar question, and they said that individual soul, so because the super soul is the same, so the description is there, but the individual soul is different for everyone. And the soul here, what we have is so much engrossed. This soul in the form, it's like it's condensed here in material world. When we will go back to spiritual world and realize, reinstate our original position, then that soul will get whichever form we have. And it could be a tree, it could be an animal, it could be a bird, or it could be a human. It could be a male, it could be a female. But here in material world, that's like a super condensed in the size of thumb, and nothing else been mentioned, because it's a very individual. So for individual, it will be different. So the description hasn't been mentioned anywhere. Yes.
Yeah.
And the second question was, sorry, Mataji.
It's about the, I've got this body as a mind.
Yes.
Puja
Yes.
is body.
Yeah.
So puja is doing all this, listening to you, listening to doing cooking. So it's actually puja doing, but it's not actually puja doing, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. So now in Bhagavad Gita, the mention is that there are three doers. So who is doing it? And it's a very, very good question, that who is doing it, all these things. It says that there is a desire. And then, so I gave the example of, let's say, myself and my son and my daughter. We are three. Right? And then my daughter, she wants to eat chocolate. So she desires, I want to have a chocolate. But she's a small, and then she cannot go out and get the chocolate, buy the chocolate. But my son is big enough, he can go and he can buy the chocolate from the market. But he's not that big that he will just go on his own. He will have to have my permission to go and buy the chocolate. So all three, now when, let's say, Arvind will go out, buy the chocolate and give it to Shivani, and Shivani will eat the chocolate. And let's say by eating the chocolate, something goes bad to her teeth, and we go to the dentist. Now dentist will say that it's your mistake, you ate the chocolate. And she will say, yeah, but, and this is what she does really, being a little sister. She says, no, not my fault. It's Bhaiya's, my brother's fault. Why did he? Because he's wise enough. He gave me the chocolate. I say, okay. So dentist will call the brother and say, why did you are big enough, you're wise enough, why did you buy the chocolate? And he could say, well, yeah, that's true that I did the karma, but I had the permission of the father. So it's basically the father. And then they will call me. And then I will say, well, see, I tried my best explaining. She asked maybe 10 times, 9 times I said no, but 10th time I didn't want to say no. And I said, better she experience herself for the learning. So I said, okay, you have it now, right? So if you think this way, all three of us were involved in eating chocolate. Right? Now what happens here? We have the soul, we have the body, and we have the super soul. We have the soul. So it says the soul desires. The soul desires. However, there is a bit of a conflict here when we will go in detail, and we can go in detail. But for now, let's take, excuse me, the soul desires. So Shivani desires, I want to have a chocolate. So soul desires that I want to eat something. I want to eat chocolate. Soul desires. But soul cannot go. Soul is inside the body. The body will go and get the chocolate. But body will not go itself. The body, the material body, will have to have the permission of super soul. As it says that without the permission of the Lord, even one of the leaf, even the leaf cannot move, what we say usually in India.
Yes.
So super soul will sanction whatever, and this is what Krishna says, in that I will reciprocate as per the desires. So the soul will desire, and then the body will do the action, but super soul will sanction it. Excuse me. So all these three things come together when an action is performed. Now again, super soul, like a father, always guiding good. Super soul is a witness. Super soul always, it says Chaitya Guru. Super soul is also mentioned as Chaitya Guru. Chaitya is like conscious, Chaitana.
Okay.
Yes. Chaitya Guru, like what we say, oh no, my conscious is not allowing me to do this. That's the super soul. Sometimes we say, oh, my gut feeling is telling me. We don't have experience of doing this, but my gut feeling is saying, no, don't do this. This is bad. That's super soul motivating and inspiring us not to do that. So, but that's the father which is saying, don't eat chocolate. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. But still, the soul says, no, I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy. I want to enjoy. And then the super soul says, okay, if you really want to enjoy, you're not listening, then go and enjoy. You will eat chocolate. You will have your teeth going bad. Then you have to go to dentist. Then you have to feel the pain. But the body is the one who is going to do the action. So all those
so many. Sorry, Prabhu. Sorry, continue.
Please, Mataji. Yes.
The thing is, we are doing so many things in a second or in a minute. So all this taking place in such a short period of time, all this sanctioning and desiring, agreeing, doing and sanctioning. Yes. So much happening.
This is the reason is, Mataji, because we are conditioned of doing it. If you see, I don't know whether you drive or not, but if you do, when we start driving, then when we start driving, we are very conscious and we are very alert, and we are very slow in driving. But what we say, consciously, we are incompetent. We are incompetent, but we are conscious about it. Then slowly, gradually, and there are various phases. And the last phase is where unconsciously we are very competent. Unconsciously, we are very competent. Because initially, we were conscious that we are incompetent, but at the end, we are unconscious, but still we are very competent. And this is where the conditioning happens. This is where the practice happens. And these things is they're not, we only got the experience from this body. The experience has been coming from previous life. And that's the reason some of the children, they come through and they start doing it. Anil Prabhuji is here. That Anil Prabhuji's son, Jai, of course, Anil Prabhuji and Mataji, they are great devotees. So they really help Jai to grow so much. But Jai, both materially, he's going in one of the best schools in the country. But spiritually, he's so much inclined. The kirtan he does, And he loves it. It's not that the parents, they have forced him to get into spirituality. He really loves it. And then how this happens? There must be some previous karmas. So that's the reason, Mataji, when these things happens very fast, because we are conditioned on that. It's like when we are going in the car, when we are talking to someone and somebody comes, we straight away we put the brake. We don't have to think about it. But all this comes from the practice. We are so much conditioned, so many times, so many lifetimes we have done this. And there are many stories in Bhagavatam which explains, the question is exactly the same what you said it, that why we don't see that these things are happening. And it, like what Arjun says that why we feel like we are compelled in it, that I don't want to do it, but feels like I'm compelled to do it. And Krishna says this is Maya. And what is Maya? Maya is that what is temporary, we think this is the life, this is the real life. And there are many examples. And if I take the examples from Advaita, which says, of course, there is a very, very small difference between Advaita and Dvaita. Well, there are big differences, but the small differences where what we're discussing now regarding duration and the intensity, duration basically, and Shashvatam. Advaita says that all this is illusion. This is Maya. This is illusion. This is just a reflection. This is just the appearance. Appearance is the word in the translation from Sanskrit. It's just the appearance. But what Srila Prabhupada said, it's not that it's illusion, it's temporary. Now, how we reconcile too is like, we don't have to reconcile. But if we would like to reconcile, then we can say, for example, dream. And dream example is there a lot in Advaita, like in Mandukya Upanishad, which is, so Bhagavatam is the natural commentary, the essence of all the Vedanta. But if we go Advaita, they say Mandukya Upanishad, there are only 12 verses there. Mandukya Upanishad, it says that Mandukya Upanishad is the whole essence of Advaita Vedanta. And Advaita Vedanta is what Yogananda Paramhansji followed, what Adi Shankaracharya ji followed, what Shri Vivekanand ji followed, Ramakrishna Paramahansa ji. So many great personalities, they follow Advaita. And then in many great schools of Advaita. So what they use a great example from Mandukya Upanishad of a dream. Now, if you see dream, some people can say, yeah, dream was, when you were in dream, it felt like real. Hardly, well, I don't think anybody could say while in the dream, that dream is false. Because as soon as you will say dream is false, which means you're not dreaming anymore, you're awake. But of course, some people say, no, I was half awake, I was half in dream. But that's just a transition. But during that time, when we were in dream and everything felt very real, all the people there, they were just the projections. They were just appearing, right? If you were there in London and London Marathon was happening, there were hundreds and thousands of people. All those hundreds and thousands of people, they were only in our consciousness. They were just projections. As soon as we are awake, they all disappear. They all disappear. And what Advaita says, that all this, what we see at the moment, that's all appearance of our consciousness, like this waking world. As soon as we will be awake, what Buddha said, Buddha wasn't from Advaita, but what Buddha said, I'm awake, what he meant, that now I can see the real truth. I'm beyond, I'm transcendental to Maya. I can see beyond Maya. Not that I'm not living in Maya, which means I'm eating the food for this material body, but I can see beyond it. And this is the concept of consciousness. So it's a bit deep, where we say, who is the doer, the original question. the soul, the body, or the Krishna? Because a lot of people, they say, well, I'm not doing anything. Krishna made me do it. So if somebody caught gambling, oh, well, Krishna, you say Krishna is the Chaitya Guru. Krishna must have inspired me from inside to do that. But no, Krishna wouldn't inspire it. It could be that the person had a strong desire. Krishna stopped number of times when the person, like a child, didn't listen after 9 times listening. No, the father said, okay, you better have the chocolate, make your own realization that it's bad. And so many people, some of our devotees have spoken at manner. One of the devotees said, I was a drug addict. And he said, I still have those aftermaths in my body. I'm still feeling bad. But that was my previous karma. And I can't blame anyone. I'm just facing the consequences. But I'm so glad that I got it. I got Krishna consciousness now. So devotees can see that it was the strong desire, wrong, bad or wrong. Of course, father will never, of course, it's a good father, will never say no to good things and never say yes to bad things. But still, father can only inspire. Father will not put you in the jail. Oh, you cannot have this. You cannot. Of course, a bit, because kids, they are going to grow out from the father's guidance and they're going to go out. And then they are fully independent. So the fathers or mothers, the parents' role is to do the transition. So where the children will reach to a level where they can make their own wise decisions. And this is where the doers, all 3 doers are. But the good thing is, our father, our Chaitya Guru, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, is always there in the form of Super Soul with us all the time. So this is a great thing to think of.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got another question, but I think time is getting on, so I will ask next time if I'm here, because I may be on holiday next Saturday.
Right.
But I will ask on the week after, but it's another question which does demand a little bit of a time. So it will be for next time, probably. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. Great. Thank you so much. All right. With that, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev Maharaj ki jai, jai jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare